Hey everybody, welcome to the Sovereign Health Podcast. My name is Andy Schoonover, and we're on a mission to inspire radical personal responsibility for both the financial and physical aspects of your health. Hey everybody, thanks for joining the Sovereign Health Podcast. My name is Andy Schoonover. I'm the CEO of Crowd Health. We're doing it a little bit different this time. Historically, what we've done is we've had members of Crowd Health or doctors come in and talk to us about their expertise and share that with our community. We're doing that a little bit differently today. I'm going to share you something that happened to me directly. Unfortunately, a few months ago, I was on a podcast and I lost the ability to speak. So I had somebody that I work with call 911, got to the hospital quickly, and they thought I was having a stroke. Funny enough, they have a card in the ER called the stroke card. It has a bunch of pictures on it. One picture was a little boy on a ladder grabbing a box of cookies out of the cabinet. And they asked me, "What is this?" The closest I could come to that was birthday cake. So I was in pretty bad shape. Fortunately, it was not a stroke. After a CT scan and MRI, it showed that my brain was fine. I got out of the hospital. I had a conversation with the head of migraine research at Stanford University. This is somebody that Crowd Health hooked me up with, and he said that's definitely a migraine. And so I have taken some precautions. I'm doing some things differently now to keep those migraines from reoccurring, but it was not a stroke, thank God. But it's always interesting as you're running a business, being on kind of one side of the service, to also be on the other side of the service as a patient. And so, I was a patient and I learned a lot. And I wanted to share some of those learnings with you today about what do you do when you're in the ER to ensure that you're treated fairly? First off is I wanted to make sure that people understand that there is a law that says that you cannot be treated any differently as someone who's uninsured than somebody who is insured. I have asked dozens of ER doctors and have asked them, hey, do you know if a member is insured or a patient is insured or uninsured? And all of them said they had no idea. And in fact, I wasn't asked for my insurance information for, I think, 2 hours after I was admitted into the ER. So none of those doctors or those nurses knew if I was insured or uninsured prior to getting into the ER. So I got into the ER, I had these scans, I was okay, it was great. But then a couple hours in, they asked me to fill out paperwork. We've all seen this paperwork. Oftentimes in the doctor's office, this paperwork is on a clipboard. There's 5 or 7 pages. You go through, at least I do, I have in the past, just sign them really without reading them. There's one of those pieces of paper that I want you to really focus on. It's called the Patient Financial Responsibility Form. And in essence, what that form says is that you are financially responsible for any charges that the hospital or the doctor provides you. So this is saying that regardless if it's $1 or $1,000, you agree to pay for it. And so they'll come in 2 different ways. One is going to be a clipboard. The second is going to be electronic. If it's clipboard, what we ask people to do is mark through this place that says that you're financially responsible for all charges, and instead put responsible for appropriate charges. That addition of appropriate gives you the leverage to negotiate with the hospitals later. If it comes in an electronic form, what I have done is right in there in the signature line, won't sign. And not once has a hospital or a doctor declined service as a result of that. And we have now, we've served almost 7,000 members over the last few years. So we think that's an effective way of doing that. Now, why are we doing this? One is, and I kind of mentioned negotiations earlier. I started Crowd Health because I got a bill for $8,000 that an insurance company refused to pay because it was medically unnecessary. I just paid that $8,000 not knowing that you can actually negotiate those bills down. I found out later that I could probably have negotiated that bill down to $1,500 or $2,000, which is a heck of a lot less than $8,000, and I wish I had known that. So you can negotiate these bills down, and part 2 of this, which we'll release here in the next week or so, is to actually walk you through the process that I did and Crowd Health did with my healthcare bills to negotiate these bills down. So the things that you're doing while you're in the ER are really worth it. So the number one thing that I'm asking you to do or think about in the ER as a Crowd Health member, if you're uninsured, is don't sign that financial responsibility form if it's electronic, and mark through it if it is given to you in paper. If you're in the ER, it's most likely going to be electronic. The second thing is that the hospital sometimes, probably about 10% of the time, will ask you to pay something at the point of care. So while you're in the ER, while you're checking out of the ER, they will say, hey, will you please pay X dollars now? You can deny that. You can decline to pay that. You can say, hey, please bill me. They cannot require you to pay at the point of care. And so get those bills later so that you can negotiate them later. Or Crowd Health, if you're a member of Crowd Health, we can negotiate them for you. That's really, really important. So point number 2 is don't pay the bill in the ER. Then the point number 3 is this. If you sign that financial patient responsibility form the way that I just recommended, then I think you then can just focus on your health. Well, I was in the ER a few months ago. I filled out that patient financial responsibility form correctly, and then I just worried about getting better. And that's the peace of mind that you really want. The last thing that you want to think about while you're in the ER is how you're going to pay for it. You know, with Crowd Health, you pay for the first $500. We submit the rest to the community to help you out. And so far, every ER bill that we've had has been fully funded by the community. So that is one of the great blessings of Crowd Health, is that you can pay that first $500. You can feel good about the community stepping up and helping you, so that you can pay attention to what's really important, which is getting you healthy, making the right decisions for your health care. That's really, really important. So to summarize, 1, don't sign that form. 2, don't pay the bills at the hospital while you're in the ER. And 3 is just focus on your health, not those healthcare bills. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes here. And please go and take a look at joincrowdhealth.com. We'd love for you to join us.